Playing video games on the go is certainly a good thing. Certainly in our generation, we've seen the rise of the portable gaming market with the creation of the Game Boy, Game Gear, DS, and PSP, to name a few. Now with the immense popularity of smartphones and Apple's iDevices, startup companies have begun to create games for them, games which have created large fan bases. Even the big traditional game developers have begun to take notice. With all this potential, will mobile gaming remain just a niche market, or will it spill over into more mainstream gaming, going toe-to-toe with the hardcore console and PC gamers? Find out what we think on this edition of Downloadable Content. To this episode of Downloadable Content. I am Brian, and with me we have Ron.
Hi, everyone.
Shanna, welcome back.
Hello, everybody.
And we have a newcomer to this madness. We have Sara.
Howdy.
Welcome, one and all. We have fresh blood.
Delicious, delicious blood.
Nom nom nom.
Uh-huh. Don't worry, we're not going to put you through any sort of hazing ritual or anything like that.
Oh, good.
Really? I had this bucket of unmentionables right beside me.
Oh, you had a bucket of entrails?
Unmentionables.
Oh.
Entrails was in the bucket, along with some other unsavory things.
Oh, okay. You're going to have to...
Oh, go ahead.
You're going to have to save that for later, Ron.
I was just going to haze her with, 5 straight hours of Shaq Fu, but okay.
That's torture. That's not hazing.
Yeah, that's not hazing. Yeah, I would have to agree with Ron. That is not hazing. That is
kind of torture. All right, that's worse than waterboarding.
I don't want to scare
Sarah.
Get out of that. I don't want to scare Sara away. I want her to, maybe come back for other episodes. First, your Shaq Fu and this bucket of unmentionables. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, really? Don't you want me to come back?
Why don't you have her do something simple, like have her set off the fire alarm at 4 a.m.?
That's a college thing. That's not necessarily a downloadable content.
Oh, why don't you make her play Bubsy for the Super Nintendo?
Well, that was a terrible game.
So, on this episode, we're going to be talking about mobile gaming, and, it's something I've been reading and seeing a lot more and more about. I mean, even though I do not personally own a smartphone or anything like that, I mean, I do have quite a few handheld console systems, and, also, I've been getting inducted into the mobile gaming through Facebook. A lot of the games that are available as apps are now starting to hit Facebook. For example, Angry Birds is now on Facebook, and I fell into that trap very quickly.
Yeah, most people do.
I love that game.
And we'll definitely talk about Angry Birds, and earlier this week, when I found out Angry Birds was on Facebook, I went, oh, cool, I'm going to play a little bit of this game for research purposes. 5 hours later...
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
5 hours later, April comes into the bedroom and she's like, this isn't research anymore, is it? Like, nope. Nope. Fucking green pigs. So, we'll definitely talk about that as we go through the course of this podcast. Now, for the purposes of this episode, the crux of the discussion will focus on smartphones, but obviously we need a little bit of background history, some context first. I mean, how did we get to mobile gaming on the smartphones? We start with portable gaming systems, and it started off early in the 70s when with the Game & Watch series of games. Other companies, Bandai had put out a handheld gaming thing, solar powered handheld thing
You also had the little purple things of like football and tennis.
Yep.
In the mid 70s as well. It was just those games and nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, and those were fine, but I think for all of us, at least here, I think the first major one that we can all remember, and the first one that really, really took off, was Nintendo's Game Boy.
The green screen.
Or as I call it, the gray cinder block.
Yeah, this is another case of Nintendo being known for a sturdy product. There actually, memory serves, there is a Game Boy in the Smithsonian that has been through the first Iraq War and is still playable.
Oh, I had my first one.
Wow.
I had my first one for 12 years.
I think I still have mine lying around somewhere. It might not be the original Game Boy, it might be that see-through Game Boy, but I think that thing still works if I put batteries in it.
I had my first one for 12 years, and it would still work to this day if my stepbrother hadn't stepped on it. And but then he gave me his, so it was, it was all right. So I don't have the Game Boy anymore, but I do have my Game Boy Advance as my oldest vestige. The only thing I have now that can still play my 20-year-old cartridges of Tetris, and Kirby's Dream Land, and Bases Loaded. But yeah, I don't know if any. I know, Ron, you just mentioned that you had a Game Boy. I had a Game Boy. I don't know if either one of you ladies ever owned one.
No, my brother had one, but he didn't ever really let me play it.
No, I was just saying, I never got to have a Game Boy or a Game Gear, but I don't know if anyone remembers these, I think they're made by Tiger Electronics. They were, various handhelds, and they were, cheap as hell. It was literally just, it was, one of those, gel screens, I think, where, if someone was running, it was just, a little character with, two little things that showed moving feet. They, took, 2 AA batteries, but I had those.
I think I remember those. I think I had, a pinball one.
Yeah, I had, Darkwing Duck, and, I think I had a little cheap Paperboy knockoff one. I've had, 20 of them, but, that was my first experience with mobile gaming. I swear they had, 2 buttons on them. They were,
Yeah, and even the Game Boy itself was very simplistic. It had the NES sort of setup, A, B, start, select, and a D-pad. And yes, the green screen. But, I remember my mother bought me one, and it came with 2 games. It came with Tetris and Bases Loaded. And I spent hours playing Tetris. Not only was Tetris, Tetris exploded onto the scene with the Game Boy. I think the Game Boy version did a lot better than the NES version.
Yeah, I would agree with that too, just because this is a simple little... This is sort of holds true to what most of the mobile gaming is nowadays. It's this little simple thing where you just put blocks together and they all collapse into each other, but you can easily turn off and on and not really lose that much progress.
Well, yeah, also, you didn't have a whole lot of games with save functions at the time of the Game Boy's launch. As the Game Boy exploded onto the scene, and, people were starting to take this very seriously, you had some major franchises, having Game Boy releases. Kirby started on the Game Boy. Kirby turns 20 this year.
Oh, wow.
And its very first game was on the Game Boy in the form of Kirby's Dream Land.
I didn't know that.
Me.
I thought it started on... Yeah, I thought it started on Super Nintendo. Huh.
And, then you had, games like, Metroid 2 was on the Game Boy.
Yeah, that was a bit of an interesting release.
You had the original Metroid on the NES, and that was, a popular game. And then Nintendo decided to make Metroid 2 Game Boy only. So you had that, and it's exactly that. This idea of taking, a game on the go, perfect for long car rides. It was just great stuff, and the games were fairly short.
It was a Mario game too, right? The one that actually had Daisy in it?
Super Mario Land.
Yeah, rather than Peach.
Super Mario Land, and that was a short but sweet game too. 4 worlds.
Yeah, and one of the worlds was a water world, and a submarine instead of him swimming around, which was a little interesting.
And then the final world, you were in a plane.
Huh.
You were in a plane, and, it was 4 worlds, and I got so good at that game that I actually could beat it in under a half hour.
Oh my god.
That's
Nice.
good.
But you're right, Ron. I mean, you had these major releases. Super Mario Land. You had a series. You had Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins. Mario Land 3, which was essentially Wario Land 1. And then what ended up happening was you would have major releases on the TV consoles, Donkey Kong Country, and then they'd have their counterpart on the Game Boy in the form of like Donkey Kong, Country for the Game Boy. And so these things were moving along pretty good, and Nintendo was enjoying all this popularity with the Game Boy, and then in comes a Sega.
Oh dear Lord!
Another beast of a handheld.
In comes Sega, not wanting to be left out of the party, comes up with the Game Gear. And the Game Gear, I never owned one, but I used to.
I own one. I'll say this right now: the Game Gear was ahead of its time by at least 5 years.
At least, I mean, I don't know why it took Nintendo 10 years after the Game Gear to figure out a way to make a colored backlit screen. I do not know why Nintendo couldn't come up with that until the DS.
Well, I know
Or
why,
the Game Boy
because
Advance.
I know why. The Game Gear took 6 AA batteries to run, and it lasted all of 5 hours.
That's also true. Oh,
That's the reason why, because Nintendo is known for a quality product that is low on power management and will last a long time. I mean, really,
not recently, it seems, though.
Yeah, not recently, but up until the 3DS, that like almost every single one of their handhelds, if you knew what you were doing, you could get anywhere from 9 to 12 hours out of the handheld.
Yeah, that's it was still. I mean, even though Game Gear was ahead of its time with full color screens and backlit, it was a hell of a beast. I mean, as you said, it took 6 AA 6.
And what was the cost of AA's batteries back then?
I don't know.
A pack of 4s too was like $8 for a pack of 4.
And we didn't have lithium AA's back in the early 90s. So 6 AA alkaline batteries, and it only lasted between 4 and 5 hours.
That was like a Sega thing, though. They always seemed to be like so busy trying to one-up Nintendo that they'd put out stuff that wasn't always quite up to par once you got into the gaming experience, like the 32X and all that hoopla.
Well, I mean, even though the Game Gear was ahead of its time, the Game Boy was still infinitely more popular. I mean, it took 4 AA batteries and lasted between 10 and 14 hours. So, if you want, to play longer, you go with the Game Boy. I mean, even my stepbrother never took the Game Gear on long car rides because you couldn't make it through a game.
I think the only games, too, that were worthy of mentioning on the Game Gear was Sonic.
Well, yes, a lot of Sonic, the Sonic handhelds were, at least for me, the only games on the Game Gear worth mentioning, although my first exposure to Mortal Kombat was on the Game Gear. And that created a monster, because now I'm just Mortal Kombat fan through and through, but
I don't even remember any other games on the Game Gear, though, than all the Sonic titles that were complementary to what was out on the Genesis at the time.
Yeah, I mean, the Game Gear did not... I mean, I don't recall... I do recall some advertising for the Game Gear, but the Game Boy was still far and away, the more popular system. But again, it would take Nintendo quite a long time to figure out how to get a backlit color screen. But that was the way of it, I suppose. Along the way, though, we got various incarnations of the Game Boy. I mean, we had the Game Boy Pocket, we had the Game Boy Color. And when the Game Boy Color hit, everyone's like, "Ooh, color, yay!"
And then they realized 5 minutes later it's barely more than 8-bit color, but...
And, I mean, you had a Super Game Boy, little add-on for the Super Nintendo. It was pre-Game Boy Color. And then we get to... I mean, there weren't really a whole lot of handheld. I mean, you had the Atari Lynx, which was popular for about 3 minutes.
Don't even recall that one.
Exactly.
And again, I didn't remember Game Gear either.
Well, that's alright. Yeah, the Atari Lynx came out... well, it came out in '89, actually. For some reason, I thought it had come out much, much later, but I was wrong. Yeah, again, Lynx, made by Atari, and by that point, Atari was, had the E.T. fiasco and never really recovered. But
poor Atari.
And then we get to the Game Boy Advance, and then we get to the DS.
Woohoo!
We get to the DS, and then Sony says, all right, now I want in. They create the PSP.
How long has the DS and PSP been out?
I'll let you know in just a second. The original DS, first generation DS, which
I want to say the original DS came out after the PSP.
The original DS came out in this country in November 2004.
Am I not wrong then? Because the PSP didn't come out till 2005 at the earliest.
The PSP came out in this country March 2005, so less than a year later.
And there was a couple different incarnations of the DS, because there was like the original, and then they made the Lite, which was the ones that came in colors. And that was a little bit more compact. Yeah, that's the one that I see that most people have. We have a friend who has that old monster one, though.
I still have a first generation DS.
Yeah?
I mean...
Like, this is the thing I've noticed, too, with later Nintendo peripherals, is generally the first release of them is them working out the kinks as they get... And then the second one, like the DS Lite, for example, is quite a bit better than the original DS. The Game Boy Advance SP is better than the original Game Boy Advance because it had a backlit screen.
Yes. There have been many, many times throughout my childhood where I had to find the most perfect lighting situation in my bedroom so that I could see the screen, or I would just buy a light for the Game Boy or the Game Boy Advance so I could see it. But yeah, the first generation DS, which is the behemoth I still have, and still works fine, still loving it. Well, I remember that when the DS Lite came out, I was the old grandpa cantankerous guy. I'm like, why do I want to buy the same system? It plays.
This one was just prettier.
It plays the same game, and surprisingly, though, the DS Lite, the DSi, and the DS XL, which all came after, they're all still in production.
Oh, I'd believe it.
Yeah.
They're still in production, probably because the 3DS hasn't caught on immensely yet. Just like Sony was still for a while still putting out PS2s long after the PS3's release. And you had starting with the DS, I think, and the PSP, you started to be able to access you have internet capability. You could start playing multiplayer, online. Had the use of friend codes.
I'm still amazed that they haven't figured out how to make something similar to the username stuff that Sony and Microsoft used.
That's going to be... You're going to have a similar function for the Wii U. With the Wii U, Nintendo is creating what they call the Nintendo Network.
Oh boy.
So, I mean, hell, people are still making games for the PS2. But anyway.
It's a good solid console, man. I still play PS2 games. I love it.
So do I. I mean, I'm enjoying it immensely. We get to the 3DS and the PlayStation Vita. The PlayStation Vita just came out a short while ago. And finally we get to smartphones. we finally get to smartphones and the smartphone market. The smartphones, these are not made by the traditional the game developers. I mean, you don't really see phones being put out by Sony or Nintendo.
Well, Sony was going to, I think, for a while.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, I remember reading about this in Game Informer, like, I don't know how long ago. But I think that with the Vita, they were also supposed to release some sort of PlayStation phone that was supposed to be like that first, like, gaming industry phone hybrid, but I don't know whatever happened to it. I guess it ended up...
That sounds similar to their Xperia Play, which is...
Yes, you're correct. That is the Xperia Play.
That's what it was? Okay. I thought it just ended up in limbo. I didn't know what happened to it.
No, it is on the market. It's sort of hovering in the in-between where it's not necessarily a smartphone, it's not necessarily a console or a true dedicated portable handheld, and there's certain functions missing on it that prevent it from being like one or the other.
Because doesn't it have it's a phone, but then you flip it up and where there would be like a text keypad, it's like a D-pad and
Yep, with
an ABC button or an X triangle or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you flip it up, it's got the PlayStation controller sort of configuration.
I know I wasn't going nuts. I knew I saw it.
It's out. I think it's Verizon in the U.S.
I've never seen it before.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've never seen it in a Verizon store or anything, but I remember reading about it.
I think that's because it has to be ordered through Sony itself, nothing can get it through Verizon in one of the contract deals like they usually do.
Probably. That makes sense.
The Xperia Play is available. It started off being Verizon only. Now it's Verizon and AT&T.
Aha. Okay.
So that's where they're at now. But talking about smartphones, I mean, you have now these startup companies that are creating these games and these apps, and you have a whole new market open. So much so that even the big players are taking notice. I mean, you have all these games that are coming out for smartphones. You have Bejeweled, which is one of the first ones I was familiar with. Fruit Ninja, Angry Birds, Words with Friends. All of these on-the-go games that are reaching the potential for a giant customer base is right there, since so many people have smartphones.
Yeah.
And, what's the appeal of a smartphone game, smartphone gaming, as opposed to, say, a DS or a PSP?
I think it's the convenience of so many people have smartphones and so many people enjoy their mobile gaming, so the convenience of having them both combined into one unit. Even if the game selection is going to be a little bit different.
I mean, obviously you're not going to find Final Fantasy 13 on a smartphone. I mean, it's not built for something like that. But you have all these, quick little short games that not only are they, they're quick and they're short, but they're freaking addictive.
Yeah.
I almost feel like it's like the old appeal of the arcade, like back in the day, when you used to just be popping in quarters. I feel like that's kind of where the appeal lies in the smartphone games. Because it's not quite the immersive experience of, okay, if I'm going to play a console game, if I'm going to play something on my DS or on my PlayStation or whatever, I know I'm going to be sitting there for a couple of hours, sunk in, really in it. But if I I don't have a smartphone, but I tend to steal my boyfriend's a lot. And if I'm just I need to game for 10 minutes to half an hour without having to focus that much and just kind of going and doing my thing and trying to get a high score, Fruit Ninja's it,
Yeah, I mean, that's the benefit with the smartphones is this is something that it doesn't really require that much power for the phone to use. You literally are only supposed to be able to play the game for 5-10 minutes as you're on the train, or for those of us who want to, in the washroom, when you need to take that break away from your insane coworkers, you step away and play Angry Birds for a couple levels, and then finish up your business and go back to doing whatever you need to do.
It's true.
One does, and I don't know. Having played Angry Birds on Facebook, one does not simply play one level of Angry Birds. It's just
no, that's impossible.
It's like Frito-Lay chips. You bet you can't eat just one.
But again, I think that's like the appeal of those games is because it's got that whole like one more level feeling that you used to get, or at least like from what I remember in the arcades. Like, you know, it's that kind of addiction that keeps you going.
Yeah,
which is fun because I feel like in a way that kind of is a little bit missing these days from a lot of games.
I could definitely agree with that. I mean, it's sort of that same sort of mentality in the early, days of, consoles, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Genesis, where you have games, level-based games like, say, Streets of Rage.
Yeah, or like even like something like, I don't know, like Pac-Man or something, you know?
Okay, Tetris or Marble Madness or, things like that. It's short, quick, and easy.
Yeah.
Which I think is
simple to grasp onto.
Which I think also attributes to the appeal is that these are very easy games for you to pick up.
Yeah.
Very simplistic control schemes. A lot of it, just involves. I mean, with so many smartphones now having gyroscopic, motion detection, or touch screen sort of controls, very easy to pick up. It's not, a convoluted system like, say, Metal Gear Solid. Or, anything like that. I mean, heck, Sonic the Hedgehog 4 was released for mobile phones. And, very simplistic control scheme.
No tutorial required.
No, it's not like a very heavy RPG where you spend your first 3 hours of the game going through tutorial screens.
Yeah, I mean, think about Angry Birds. What is the core mechanic in the Angry Birds is that it's
kill!
You would kill the pigs, but it's a slingshot. Well, what do you do with your slingshot? You just pull it back and just let it fly.
And then of course you have games like Fruit Ninja, where I've never played the smartphone version. I played it on the Xbox Kinect, where you just flail your arms like a madman.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually pretty difficult. I played it on the Kinect also. Yeah, flailing your arms like an idiot.
It's pretty hard at Dave & Buster's too.
Yes, on that giant touchscreen, because it's like this giant touchscreen in front of you, and you can't even see the whole screen at once, so you can't even see all the fruit that's being flung at you at once.
Yeah, Sara whooped my ass when we did that at Dave & Buster's.
So it's not just flailing your arms around. The one at Dave & Buster's is a touchscree.
It's a giant touchscreen.
Yeah, it's like giant touchscreen. You can so it's like you can use all 10 fingers at once if you wanted to.
It's probably like a 45-inch TV.
Oh my god! How do you cover that entire screen?
That's a big ass screen.
Well, maybe it's not that big. Maybe it's more like 30 inches. I don't know, but I just
still 30 inches is really big for you to cover with 2 hands. That's.
Yeah.
You kind of have to throw your body. I kind of, Sarah, I get the image of you kind of going at this large screen like a twister board. It's like while you're flailing at the fruit right in front of you, one appears in the lower right-hand corner, and I can just imagine you, using your foot to try to get.
Maybe on the Kinect.
But it's like, that'd be great if that screen was on the floor and you could just hurl your whole body at it. Like,
oh, good lord.
You break it and want it.
That'd be fun. Another point I think to make with regard of the appeal for smartphone games is that, I mean, Ron, I know you and I think we consider ourselves, hardcore video gamers. We play video games excessively. Do you think that one of the other appeals of the smartphone games is that they appeal more to the casual fans?
Well, yeah. A lot of these things are bright colors, very low I don't say resolution, but they're very simple. They're meant to be eye-catching with the color scheme, and then very simple to play. And my dog agrees with me, obviously, because why else would he else be barking?
Yep. He likes playing Angry Birds, too.
Well, I'll be having pork roast tonight, he says.
But I mean, I don't know how, maybe there are a lot of hardcore console and PC gamers who also play smartphone games. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't own a smartphone.
Well, I can say from my end, I definitely go and I definitely have my hardcore moments. But like I've mentioned, my boyfriend has a smartphone, he has an iPhone, and I can find the appeal in both. I mean, I can understand how you can go from one to the other. I mean, Fruit Ninja can suck me in for hours.
Yes, I can.
If I'm given the time, if I allow myself to actually take that much time to play Fruit Ninja.
Yeah, I agree.
And of course, then you have other games, which we'll definitely get to in the second half. We're going to be getting there shortly. First half winding down. A lot, even as I mentioned in the intro, some of the big players, the big traditional game makers are starting to take notice. I mentioned earlier, Sega made Sonic 4 available for smartphones.
Also, I believe that there actually has been ported to mobile gaming as well. Final Fantasy 1. The original Final Fantasy. Yeah.
I think you might be right. I will look that up and verify that. I think you might be right, because I know Square has tried to make port over some of their Final Fantasies for mobile phones. I mean, they're much more popular in Japan than they are here, but let's find out. Let us consult Lord Wikipedia.
Yeah, I'm on Google at the moment.
Ooh.
App Store, Final Fantasy.
Yes. Final Fantasy 1 was released on iDevices February of 2010.
Oh.
It first hit mobile phones in Japan only in March 2004. So it took 6 years to make the iJump.
As it always does. Pout.
So, the big game companies are taking notice. I mean, the whole reason why Episode 1 of Sonic 4 was delayed was so that they could make it available for iDevices. I don't know if we have yet to see Mario making an appearance on smartphones.
I don't think they have yet, but that's probably more so Nintendo trying to keep it located in their stuff and not have it go out to other people.
Nintendo wants to keep it in the family.
That's true, yeah. I mean, unless there's like a Nintendo phone at some point.
If it is, it's probably going to be shaped like a mushroom.
That would be sick.
If it is, it's probably going to be shaped like a mushroom, because that's how they roll. But yes, so you have some of the old... I mean, a lot of, old games are starting to come over to smartphones. That is a very, very good point you brought up, Shanna. Final Fantasy just being one of them.
The thing with those games, though, on the smartphones, like I have the Sonic game on my iPhone, and it's actually kind of difficult to control because you don't have the buttons that you had on the original game when you played it on the console. You have a touchscreen. You can't feel buttons. You can't, maybe it's just me, but the games aren't meant to be played on a touchscreen.
I can understand that, because, if you're playing something like Sonic, you need the feel of, okay, D-pad, down, right, left, you need to kind of know where your thumb's going.
Exactly.
It's probably kind of hard when you're just working with a flat surface, because you probably end up all over the place.
Yeah, pretty much. That's why I haven't played the game pretty much since the day I downloaded it.
Aw, bummer.
So I suppose I'd be willing to try the Final Fantasy one.
Do it. Do it.
Although Sara, Sonic 4 is available also on Wii, PS3, and 360, so if you want the feel of button mashing, download it. I mean, download it for one of those consoles.
Yeah.
Also, Square also put out a Kingdom Hearts game for mobile phones.
What?
That just it was redone for the DS. It was Kingdom Hearts Coded.
Oh, right. That came out on DS.
Yep, it was originally released in Japan only for mobile phones, and then it was rebranded and remade as Kingdom Hearts Recoded and put out for the DS. So...
Wasn't it re-colon-coded? Some junk like that?
Yes, don't say colon. I don't want to know about colons, thank you very much. So, I mean, the big players are starting to take notice, which I think is great, which proves that, you know, the smartphone market is growing immensely, and the big game companies are realizing the huge potential to be made. So, that's that for that. On our second half, as we bring this first half down to a close, we're going to be talking a bit more about the appeal of smartphone games. We're also going to be discussing at length some of the more popular smartphone games, give you our thoughts on them. And, of course, we have our cool moments in video games in the second half coming up. So... while you go listen to music, we'll all run off and play Angry Birds for a few minutes. We'll go do that. See if we can outdo each other's high scores. You're listening to Downloadable Content, talking about mobile gaming. We'll be back! Welcome back to Downloadable Content, our discussion on mobile gaming, prying me away from Angry Birds. Just when I almost had those damn green pigs! God damn it, those... Frustrating annoyance.
They are vexing you with their oinks.
Yeah. And the fact that they laugh at you when you fail the level, kind of reminds me of the fucking Duck Hunt dog.
Dog.
Damn that dog.
You just want to take a machine gun and just kill everything!
But you can never shoot the dog. That was the weird thing.
You can on the Flash version of Duck Hunt.
Good.
Oh my God.
Good.
You have a Gatling gun with unlimited ammo, and all you get on the screen are just dogs flying across the screen, and it's like a dark dystopian backdrop, and occasionally words appear on the screen like kill, kill, kill.
Sounds like a game made in the 90s or 2000s.
Well, whatever the case, it's beautiful. All right. Back to the smartphone gaming discussion. Continuing to talk about, the appeal of smartphone gaming, which, as I said in the first half, a large part of its success is based on the history we had, with the Game Boy and the Game Gear and the DS and etc., etc. Now, do you ever think that we're going to end up with smartphones that can handle some of the more complex and, frankly, much more involved games?
They already do. There is... I forget the name of the game. Destiny Blade, I want to say, is what it is. It's for iPhone only.
What's it called?
I think it's called Destiny Blade.
I'll look it up.
This is a game that is very well oriented toward graphics. I would say it is a near PS2 level worth of scale of graphics. It is a very successful game because the developers for it made a sequel. It was mentioned in a Game Informer article at least a couple months back. It was fairly positively reviewed as well. Most people who played it, it's like I want to say at least a 10-hour game where there's a fair bit of story involved, quite a bit of back lore to it. The combat is a Demon Souls, Dark Souls-esque sort of action RPG.
With that sort of difficulty?
Not that difficult, though. And it was generally there's a fair bit of story involved, and there's quite a bit of backstory in the world lore. And they made a sequel for it, and the sequel sold fairly well, so I would not be surprised this is going to be a third one.
I'm not looking for any... I can't find anything, Ron, just telling you with that name. So your game name...
The name might be wrong. You want to give me more, I can look for the Game Informer that I remember it in.
Infinity Blade.
That's what it is.
Infinity Blade, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
I've heard of that one.
There we go. Thank you, Google. Yes, okay. As I'm looking at it now, try that again.
Rewind.
Infinity Blade. It is iOS only. You're right. Action RPG, as you've mentioned, and just to further your point, Ron, it was the fastest-grossing app in the history of the App Store.
Wow, really?
It made
beat out Angry Birds. Wow.
It was. I don't know if it currently is. It made almost $2 million in sales in the first 4 days of release.
Wow.
Yikes.
Yeah. Well, and to further your point, Ron, it was based off the Unreal Engine. So this was a...
Yeah, so this is like I said, PS2 level graphics.
Damn. So they've already started.
Yeah. I think the company that did it is a mobile gaming company.
It's made by Chair Entertainment and Epic Games.
Yeah, so Epic Games has had some experience with console gaming. The Chair people, I think, are new. And they're probably the mobile arm of Epic Gaming.
But yeah, it's an action RPG, and it doesn't surprise me that it's sold. Action RPGs tend to do very well anyway.
Yeah.
And you're right, there was a sequel. It was Infinity Blade 2 was released December of last year. And this game, the Infinity Blade 1, has made over $23 million since release. So...
How much is the app? How much is the app?
I don't know. I don't have an iThing.
Yeah, I don't have an
would
iThing either.
The price point is actually probably close to $4 or $5 for the game.
Infinity Blade price. Yay, Google. $6.
Yeah.
For
So
that experience like that, that's like nothing.
$6.
$6 for a 10 to 20 hour action RPG.
Damn. That is really getting your money's worth.
That is a score.
That is really getting your money's worth. Because there are 20-hour RPGs for consoles that cost $50.
Or 60.
Or 60, yeah. So, good. I'm glad to see that, you know, companies are starting to take smartphone games seriously. You know, I'm hoping we have a nice mix. I mean, we have the vast majority of the games that are out there now are these very simple games, very quick games, but just as fun, just as addicting. But yes.
And again, like the reason why you're not seeing more of them is because of the price of the battery life of the smartphones. Generally, when you do something like this, the battery drains really fast.
I was just gonna say that I can imagine, because a smartphone is not built to handle, you know, gaming like a PSP or a DS. I can imagine if you're playing such a heavy, involved game, your battery's gonna just drop.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So, excellent. With that said, we'll move on to talking about, and we'll have all of us discuss this. You know, since we all have some experience playing, you know, these various types of games, we're going to talk about, you know, what we think are our favorites. And so, because Sarah's the newcomer here, I'm going to start with her.
Well, my newest favorite iPhone game is along the same lines as Words with Friends, except instead of Scrabble, it's Pictionary.
Oh.
Yeah, it's called Draw Something, or Draw Something. And I've got 10 games going or something, so it's like, it's amazing. It's a Pictionary game, and you play it with, just like you do Words with Friends. My sister introduced it to me, and I've been playing it at work when I have nothing else to do. It's a slow time of year.
I heard about that recently. I've heard it's pretty fun. It's really simple. I mean, it seems to incorporate most of the fun aspects of the Pictionary games without all the frustration.
Yeah, and it's better for me because I like the Scrabble game, the Words with Friends, but I'm not that good with words. I don't have like the extensive vocabulary that some of my friends have that I play with, like my sister, and but I'm good at drawing, so Draw Something is perfect. I love it.
Excellent.
Yeah, that is my newest favorite.
Very, very nice. And it's called Draw Something, and does it cost did it cost anything?
No, it's free.
It's a free app. All right.
Yes.
Excellent. Shanna.
Okay, well, I mean, I've already talked about Fruit Ninja at nauseum. But
Great game.
what can I say? I'm totally addicted to it. I have beat my boyfriend's score, much to his jest. He even got me a plushie of Sensei for Christmas because of the amount of times I steal his phone. But I've also gotten into, there's another one called Temple Run, where it's like basically you're just this little explorer dude and you've got monkeys chasing you and you run out of a temple and you use the touchscreen to kind of make yourself go left and right as the path turns. Or else you fall off or you run into a tree. It's very like, you know, sort of, what's the word? You know, it's kind of one of those games where you just kind of have to be on it. You know what I mean? Like you have to like have like really quick reflexes. So that one's fun. Also, I've gotten into this little RPG called, I think it's called Battleheart. And it's got these, it feels like an old school Final Fantasy game. You know, you got all your little classes. You've got your fighter and your knight and your white mage and your barbarian and black mage and all that stuff, and they're little chibis, and you just kind of go to each level and, you know, you fight the little enemies in each level. So that one's fun.
I'm looking at the screenshots for Battleheart. That looks like That looks like something that could be quite amusing. It looks like it's $3.
It's adorable. I can't handle it. It's so cute.
When you start describing games as adorable, I can see the popularity. It's like, it's cute!
But it is. They're little and chibi, and they have little angry eyes, and I don't know. I like it.
Sounds good. Ron.
I have a smartphone, but I'm generally cheap with my games on the smartphone, so I don't really have a whole ton. I have Angry Birds. I have a couple other free ones. One that jumped out to me was, actually, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it was a visual novel-esque game, but it was put out by Square Enix, actually.
Square's always good.
It was free. It wasn't that long of a thing. It was like maybe an hour to beat the whole thing. But this was a case of the game telling a fairly like a story sort of thing, where I can't remember the name of it. Why can't I remember the name of it?
You said it was a novella sort of game?
Yeah. It had. I mean, it was. I personally saw it as a visual novel game. There was a little bit of gaming to it. There was some like tap X here to blow up a bomb and something along those lines. If you want, I can look on my phone. It might be in my phone history. I can try and find the name for you.
You can do that later.
Okay. But again, this was a case of the game exploring something that I had not seen. In that terms of, like, it's a visual novel-esque sort of thing, which is a different subgenre in Japan altogether. And it's refreshing to see it carried over, starting to kind of... I don't think the game did all that well, to be honest with you, but it'd be interesting to see that carry over as well.
Okay.
It's by Square? I'm trying to look it up.
I could have sworn that it's developed by Square or published by Square.
I'm looking. Ooh, Chocobo Panic. What's that? Keep looking.
All right. Well, while you look that up, I'm going to talk about mine. I'm very, very limited in terms of the smartphone games. Although I'm starting to get into a lot of these games are being made available on Facebook, and we'll talk about a little bit about Facebook games in a bit. But for me, I have to go with Angry Birds. I have to. I've sunk so many hours into. I've sunk so many hours. I've played all the levels.
How many of the different versions?
Well, the only one that's available on Facebook at the moment is the regular Angry Birds.
Oh, okay.
So you don't have the Angry Birds Seasons or...
Yeah, I have Rio on my iPhone.
Yeah, it's just the regular Angry Birds, which comes with the levels of Poached Eggs and Mighty Hoax. And then there's one that's Facebook only, Facebook exclusive, called Surf and Turf.
Oh.
And, I started playing this game for research purposes for this episode, and I'm like, okay, I have to keep going. I have to. And for those of you who have been living under a rock and don't know what Angry Birds is, very simplistic story. You have these, little green piggies who have stolen the eggs from these birds, and now these birds are angry. Hence the title. So then, each level is a very simple setup. The pigs have made these structures to protect themselves, and then using a group of predetermined birds, you basically slingshot these birds into these structures with the attempt of knocking the structures down and crushing the piggies in the process. And there are various different types of birds. You have your basic red bird, which is just nothing more than, launching him, nothing special about him. But then you have the birds that have special abilities. You have the blue one, which can split itself into 3, very good for breaking ice blocks. Then you have the yellow one, which has the ability to pick up an incredible burst of speed and just plow through and break shit. Usually, very good for wood.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have my favorite, which is the bomb.
Mm.
The bomb bird, which when bomb bird just does exactly that, just blows up and takes a lot of things with it. There's the pelican, which is my least favorite. He boomerangs.
Sorry, that's a hysterical thought. I haven't seen that one.
The pelican, he boomerangs. He's the least favorite. What am I missing? Let's see. You have the red, yellow, red, yellow, blue, the bomb, pelican. Oh, the white bird, which drops.
The white bird, which drops the egg.
Drops the eggs. Yes, egg bombs.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's so many levels, and it's like so addictive. So addictive, and the popularity of Angry Birds has moved beyond the game. I'm sure you've seen merchandise for it.
Everywhere, hats and t-shirts and
Plushies. I haven't gotten that depraved yet, where I've started buying Angry Birds merchandise, but it does exist. I've seen plushies. When I actually went to the Altamont Fair, which is our Yeehaw country fair that comes up here every summer, they were giving away Angry Birds plushies as carnival prizes.
Oh, fun.
For the carnival games, so...
I found the name of the game, too, that I was playing. It's called Imaginary Range.
Oh, cool. Okay, I couldn't find it. I was looking for it.
Yeah, so it looked like it was Square Enix put it out, but they didn't actually make it.
What's it called?
Imaginary Range.
Imaginary Range. Let's see. Alright. Wikipedia has yet to have an article on it, but that's okay. That's alright. So that is my own personal favorite, is Angry Birds at the moment. And as I said, Angry Birds is available not just on the iDevices, but also on Facebook, which leads into the last part of our discussion here, which we'll talk about, Facebook games. I mean, a lot of people access Facebook through their smartphones, and Facebook has a plethora of games. I mean, some of the big, huge ones that had, waves of popularity, Farmville, and the various, insert suffix, Ville games, Cafe-ville, and which a lot of my friends got eaten up by that. Bejeweled, Words with Friends. They're just a huge amount of these games for people to further kill time by.
I got a whole bunch of invites for Mob Wars.
I had a whole bunch of invites for Mafia Wars. I mean, it's...
Oh, I think that's maybe the same thing. Maybe it's Mafia Wars. Something of that nature.
I mean, I don't know if any of you have played Facebook games like, Farmville or anything like that.
No, I avoided those like the plague.
Yeah, I try to avoid them too.
I have enough addictions. I can't take another one.
Okay. Why did you avoid them like the plague?
Because I didn't want to get addicted.
I see what happens to people who play Farmville. They end up in rehab for that.
No different than war crack addiction. I mean,
Except it's free.
I mean, I know people who have failed out of school and lost relationships over war crack.
Oh, ditto. Yeah.
I can't imagine you going to rehab. What are you here for? I played too much Farmville.
I couldn't stop tending to my vegetables and my poor sheep.
Although it kind of has the same sort of addictiveness as Gigapets, where you're waking up all hours of the night to feed this damn thing.
That was another mobile game when you think about it. Completely 24-hour, all-encompassing. But...
Well, yeah, my sister had a few of those, and I wanted to kill them.
I was so proud. I got my alien to live for like 35 days. It was amazing.
Well, my sister also had a Furby, but that's a whole different rant.
Oh, God.
That's a whole different rant. So,
This is an archive of the 90s, not necessarily mobile gaming.
yeah, that's just back on topic here. So, basically, to sum it all up, do you think that smartphone gaming, mobile gaming, do you think that's going to continue to grow, in popularity?
Definitely. I mean,
Absolutely.
like, we're always going to need little things to pass the time, whether we're like, riding the train or, on a trip somewhere, or we're going to be stuck on a plane for a couple hours or whatever. So I don't see why it wouldn't continue to grow.
And do you think that we're going to, I know we've already started to see it, but do you think that, smartphones, eventually might be more equipped to handle games, or do you think they're just going to stick with basically your phone as your basic premise? I mean, it would kind of seem to me that, if you're going to make a smartphone that is, more equipped for gaming, you might as well just make a handheld gaming console, and we have those already.
Yeah, I agree. I can't see, I can't see it going beyond the type of games that we have now. Maybe it's because, I'm sure everybody's going to have a different reason. Maybe part of it is going to be like my reason, where I need to feel the buttons when I play games like that.
Yeah, I mean, the main things limiting it, in my opinion, is battery life and control scheme. Because most of these games are going to be played with a touchscreen, so you have to make sure your control setup is going to be able to work with that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to think about who those games, like who's paying for those games and who's buying them. I mean, a smartphone owner may not necessarily be someone who goes out and buys a real immense gaming experience. So while the capacity is there, is the public going to want something like that?
Also true. I mean, I don't expect that we'll be seeing a game like Skyrim on a smartphone
Yeah, exactly.
anytime soon. I just don't.
Though if that did happen, I think the world would end shortly thereafter.
You think that'd be it? End times are here?
Yeah, because people would be too busy playing Skyrim trying to get their romance up instead of monitoring the nuclear reactors.
Because Skyrim is one of the horsemen of the apocalypse. Alrighty.
Yeah, war, famine, pestilence, and Skyrim. So
There you go. I think that the mobile gaming industry will continue to grow. I mean, there's so much potential for customer base, things like that, and people keep playing them. And a lot of these games are either free or very low priced.
Yep.
So you're getting usually you're getting a pretty good bargain.
But also, the higher priced games are, I mean, something's got to pay for the creation of these games.
Very true.
So,
it's very, very true. I mean, I think I remember, even when the episode 1 of Sonic 4 came out, it was set at a pretty high price, even for, a downloadable game. It was, I don't know how much it was on, the App Store, but for, the Wii and the PlayStation Network, it's $15.
Oh.
And that was just episode 1. I mean,
that's hefty.
That is very hefty. So, and episode 2 is currently in development. So we'll see where that goes. So there we go. That is our discussion on mobile gaming. So with that, we're going to lead into our final segment, which is our cool moments in video games, which basically, and this is an open-ended segment, and usually this is just talking about, a particular moment in a video game that was just, amazing. Something that sticks out in your head, makes the game that much more memorable. And so I think it's my turn now, since we did go around now for 3 episodes without me going one. So I mentioned in the very first episode of this season, I mentioned Super Paper Mario. So for this one, I'm going to go back further. I'm going to go back to 1996. Because this particular memory has stuck around for a while. It's probably one of the more iconic moments in video games, particularly if you're a survival horror fan. That's going to go back to the first Resident Evil game. And the moment I am talking about is the very first zombie.
Oh, okay.
If you all remember that particular cutscene, when Jill walks, she leaves the dining area and walks out into the hallway, hears the sound of chomping, turns the corner, and it cuts into this cutscene where you see somebody chowing down on a person and just kind of turns its head very slowly as if to say, yes! And it's just this very zombie-looking head, or as zombie-looking as you could get for PlayStation 1. And, yeah, that moment sticks out, because that sets the tone for the rest of the game. Because there's a lot of oh shit moments in Resident Evil. I don't know if you three have played the first Resident Evil, but...
It's on my to-do list, because I've only played, the more recent incarnates, but I almost want to play just because I've heard the voice acting, and I think it's hysterical.
I will give it that. Resident Evil 1, the early Resident Evil games, particularly the first, has some of the best, and I mean worst, voice acting you will ever... I mean, yes, it was still pretty new for 1996. I mean, now the fact that we had voice acting in 1996 was incredible, as opposed to Final Fantasy VI for the Super Nintendo, where you have this MIDI voice trying to sing. But anyway, wah, 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 wah. Yeah, there's MIDI voice. But yes, some of the choice voice acting in Resident Evil 1. You better come look at this. What is it, Barry? Blood. This blood is still warm. It might be Chris's blood. And then
so Shatner-esque.
I was saying, you're going Shatner on us now, Brian?
Spock! But no, after you see the first zombie and it gets up and starts chasing you, Jill runs back into the dining room. Barry, it's a monster! And then he says in his best Paul Bunyan, I'll take care of it for you, Jill. The one thing I was very confused about in that scene, the only gun that Barry has is a Magnum. Why does it take 4 shots at point-blank range with a Magnum?
Because he wasn't aiming for the head.
Doesn't matter! This is Resident Evil! You aim a Magnum at the toe, and it will... Magnum is one of the most powerful weapons you can get in the game. Why does it take 4 shots?
NPC lameness.
NPC lameness, yes. Okay. So there you go. The very first zombie in Resident Evil 1. That is my cool moment in video games for this episode. And there we go. Do any of you have any final thoughts you want to throw in for mobile gaming? Or have we pretty much covered it?
I want to go back to the Angry Birds.
Easy, Ron. You'll get there in a few minutes.
Let's take out piggies!
You'll get your fix in a minute. So there we go. If you want to throw in, if any of you listening here want to throw in your own opinions, comments, questions, whatever, about this episode or any other episode, you can go onto our Facebook page at facebook.com/downloadablecontent, and you can also follow us on Twitter at DLContent. Who the hell is slamming back there?
What?
Sounds like a stapler.
Yeah, sorry, it was me.
It's like
you beat with somebody.
I didn't. No, I was. Never mind. It was the stapler. I didn't realize it was so noisy.
Yeah, on Twitter at DLContent. So I would like to thank Ron, Shanna, and Sara for being on this episode, giving their thoughts about mobile gaming. On our next episode, we're going to talk about the Wii U and the Vita. The Vita having just been released, Wii U still in development. We'll give our thoughts about that. And that is on our next episode of Downloadable Content. So, enjoy. Have a good one. I'm Brian. See you on the next episode.